3 years after our divorce, Roxanne showed up with her son. She was impatient. So the kid said he likes Uncle Edward more. How long are you going to hold a grudge? Get over it. Let's get remarried. I just stared at her. When I came to my senses, I picked up my daughter, who was rubbing her eyes as she walked out of the bedroom. Over her and her son's stunned expressions, I said calmly, "No, I'm remarried with a child of my own." That night, after putting my daughter to sleep, I was about to get back to the game when the doorbell suddenly rang. I went to look, and for a second, I thought I was seeing things. Standing at my door was none other than my ex-wife of 3 years, Roxanne. Her long, slender fingers tapped on the door. "Jake, open up. What are you doing here?" I asked, opening the door and looking at her with a complicated mix of feelings. 3 years, and time hadn't left a single mark on her. She was still the same vibrant, beautiful woman I remembered. The moment she saw me, she flinched, but that familiar arrogance quickly clouded her features. "What took you so long?" Without waiting for an invitation, she swept into the apartment with her son, Oliver, in tow. She glanced around, a flicker of contempt in her eyes. "Jake, is this what you've been reduced to since our divorce? Living in a place like this? What happened to the villa you got in the settlement? Why aren't you living there?" In reality, this apartment wasn't cheap. It was a multi-million-dollar single-floor unit, and it was mainly just a 2-minute walk from my office. But before I could explain, Roxanne had already settled onto the sofa. She crossed her legs elegantly and held out a hand to me as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "Come here." Roxanne's grandfather was Russian, which gave her high cheekbones and deep-set eyes that always seemed to size you up with an undisguised sharpness. Fortunately, the gold-rimmed glasses she wore softened the intensity in her eyes, lending her an air of cool, aloof glamour. It was that face that had made me fall head over heels for her all those years ago, trailing after her for so long, determined to be with her. I frowned. We agreed to stay out of each other's lives after the divorce. "What's the meaning of this showing up with the kid?" Roxanne scoffed. "Oh, please. I know you. You've probably been dying to get back together these past 3 years, but were too embarrassed to say anything. I admit maybe I got a little too close to Edward, and the kid said a few things he shouldn't have. But you're a grown man, and you have such a temper. You just up and divorced me." She gave Oliver a gentle nudge. "Oliver has missed you terribly all these years. He knows he was wrong. He's always crying about wanting his daddy." I looked at Oliver, my heart a tangled mess. When I left, we had already lived together for 3 years. After all this time, he'd grown so much he was completely different from the little boy I remembered. The disdain and annoyance he once showed me were gone. He carefully raised his eyes and whispered, "Daddy, I was wrong. I shouldn't have said I wished you were dead so Uncle Edward could be my dad." He came forward, trying to take my hand, and pleaded softly, "Please come back, Daddy. Oliver misses you." I stared at him, then instinctively took a step back, avoiding his touch. Oliver looked up, hurt, as if he couldn't understand why I didn't scoop him up like I used to. But only I knew that I could never love this child again. I hadn't seen him once in 3 years, because just looking at him would remind me of the day before Roxanne and I divorced. I still remember that day with painful clarity. It was already 11 p.m., and he was insisting on playing on his iPad. He said Uncle Edward had shown him a super fun racing game. I was exhausted from a full day of playing with him, but I forced myself to coax him. "Oliver, let's get some sleep. We can play tomorrow, okay?" He refused. After a little more nagging from me, he finally pouted and put the iPad down. I lay down beside him, so tired I could barely keep my eyes open. Just as I was about to drift off, I heard him say something. "It would be better if Daddy died." My eyes snapped open. I thought I'd misheard him. "Oliver, what did you just say?" His childish voice, for the first time, filled me with a fear and revulsion that sent a cold sweat down my spine. The moonlight from the window illuminated his face. He stared at me with his big, grape-like eyes and said, word for word, I said, "It would be better if Daddy died. Then Mommy could marry Uncle Edward, and he could be my new daddy." He was so young, too young to even realize what he had said. He closed his eyes and quickly fell asleep. But my sleepiness had vanished completely. I stared at the ceiling until my eyes burned. Just as dawn broke, Roxanne came home. She claimed she had been working late, but she carried the faint scent of Creed Aventus, a men's cologne. It was Edward's signature scent. Normally, I would have started a fight with her. But this time, I didn't argue or make a scene. I just said to her quietly, "Roxanne, let's get a divorce." I handed her the papers. I only asked for half of her assets. I didn't ask for Oliver. "What's your problem with the kid?" Seeing me avoid Oliver, Roxanne couldn't help but frown. What did he know back then? That was just a kid talking nonsense. I said calmly, "Roxanne, take him and go. I'm remarried with a child of my own now." Roxanne froze, then raised an eyebrow, a mocking expression on her face. "Jake, your lies are getting more and more careless. That's enough. Even if you don't think about me, you have to think about the child. You raised Oliver with your own 2 hands. Back then, you'd panic if he so much as coughed. Are you really willing to let him grow up without a father?" Just as I was about to speak, the bedroom door creaked open. Clara came out, clutching her pink bunny and rubbing her eyes. She froze when she saw the strangers, then instinctively grabbed my hand and whispered, "Daddy? Who are they?" A silence fell over the living room. Roxanne's body went rigid. Before she could speak, Oliver charged forward and confronted Clara. "He's my daddy. Who are you?" Clara didn't like that one bit. She clutched the bunny's ear with one hand and squeezed my hand tightly with the other. "He's my daddy. You can't call him that. Daddy says I'm his only little treasure." Oliver lost his cool and reached out to push Clara. Not one to back down, Clara swung her pink bunny at him. I sighed and pulled them apart. Oliver was utterly crushed. His eyes reddened, and he choked out, "Daddy." When Clara saw he was about to cry, she decided to start wailing herself. Fat tears rolled down her cheeks as she sobbed and reached her little hands out to me. "Daddy, hold me." I paused for a moment, then bent down and lifted Clara into my arms. Oliver stared at me in disbelief, his small body trembling as tears streamed down his face. Patting Clara's back, I turned to Roxanne. I was telling the truth. I married my current wife right after our divorce. Our daughter is almost 3 now. Remarrying is out of the question. You should just focus on making things work with Edward. I forced a smile. I'm not just saying that to be spiteful. I mean it. Roxanne shot up from the sofa and strode over to me in a few steps. She grabbed my wrist, her face a mask of incredulous, almost laughable disbelief. "Impossible," she said, though it was unclear if she was talking to me or herself. "Jake, didn't you love me? Didn't you love our child? How could you marry someone else? How could you have a child with someone else?" She quickly composed herself, sized Clara up, and asked in disbelief, "Where did this child come from?" Before I could answer, Clara rolled her eyes. "You're not my mommy. My mommy is way prettier than you." Roxanne's face changed, and her grip tightened. I flinched back. "Roxanne, let go. You're hurting me." As we struggled, we heard the sound of the front door's fingerprint scanner. With a soft click, the door opened. Vivian walked in. She calmly stepped between Roxanne and me, forcing Roxanne to release her grip, then took Clara from my arms. It was late December, and her black cashmere coat still carried the chill of the outside air, but her hands were warm. Roxanne's face was ashen. Vivian glanced at the furious Roxanne, her own composure unruffled, and curved her lips into a confident smile. "We have company? Why didn't you let me know?" I whispered. "She just showed up with the kid. I have no idea what she's thinking." I felt a pang of sympathy for my daughter. Clara was already asleep, and they woke her up. "She has preschool tomorrow. Then she won't go. She can rest at home for a day," Vivian said, stroking Clara's head. "I was planning on taking her to the amusement park anyway. I'll take tomorrow off too. Mommy's the best." Clara snuggled into her mother's arms and made a face at Roxanne. Roxanne watched our little family coldly. She didn't need me to point out the resemblance between Clara and Vivian. Her fists, hanging by her sides, clenched. Her voice was laced with ice. "Jake, you really married her?" Yes, Vivian answered for me. 3 years ago at a castle in Tuscany. Her lips curled into a smile tinged with pity. I was thinking of inviting you. After all, you are my predecessor in a way. But Jake said he didn't want to see anyone unpleasant on our big day. To say Roxanne looked terrible would be an understatement. I glanced at Oliver, who still had tear stains on his face, and sighed. Roxanne, we settled everything when we divorced. We don't owe each other anything. We don't owe each other anything? Roxanne let out a strange laugh. Jake, you were the one who said you loved me. You were the one who knelt on the floor like a dog, begging me not to leave. And now you're telling me we don't owe each other anything? She reached for my wrist again, but Vivian blocked her. Vivian grabbed Roxanne's wrist tightly. I could see her struggling to control her temper in front of Clara, but the veins on her hand were still bulging. Please respect my husband. Clara was on the verge of tears. I moved to stand beside Vivian and stroked Clara's head. It's okay, sweetheart. Mommy and Daddy are here. Don't be scared. The three of us stood together as a family. Across from us, Roxanne and Oliver seemed a world away, separated by an uncrossable line. I said quietly, Roxanne, I did love you, and I loved Oliver too. Even though he was Edward's child with another woman, I loved him because I thought of him as my own. But I don't love you anymore, and I don't love Oliver anymore. I have my own life now. I hope you'll stop trying to interfere with it. Oliver burst into tears, looking completely heartbroken. He wanted to come to me but didn't dare, just stood there sobbing and calling my name over and over. Daddy, Daddy, please don't leave me. Roxanne ignored him. She just stared at me for a long time. Then she smiled, but there was no warmth in her eyes. Fine, she said. You win, Jake. You're ruthless. After Roxanne left, Vivian calmly put Clara to bed, told her a story, and kissed her forehead before coming out. The more naturally she acted, the more scared I felt. That was Vivian for you. When I first met her, I thought she was a mature, elegant, and generous woman. It was only after we got together that I discovered she could be as petty as they come. She'd get jealous if I so much as spoke to another woman for too long. I reached out and playfully tugged at the belt of her robe. Honey, I whispered. Feeling like it? She rejected me with a prim, serious expression. It's too late. I have to work tomorrow. I rolled my eyes internally. You dress that provocatively just to tease me, don't you? Usually, she was more enthusiastic about getting into bed than anyone. There were always 1 or 2 days a week where we'd go at it so hard I couldn't get out of bed the next day, and she'd take the day off to stay tangled up with me. And now she was talking about work. She was the CEO of her company. Did she really have someone checking to see if she clocked in? This woman was such an actress. I knew her pettiness was flaring up again. I wrapped my arms around her, purring sweet nothings in her ear. But I want you. Vivian glanced at me, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Did you grovel like this for your ex-wife too? I shook my head. No, never. She was a psycho. Let's not talk about her. With one hand, Vivian pushed me onto the bed, looming over me as she untied her robe. So who's better, her or me? Backlit by the lamp, the shadows from her brow bones obscured her expression. I couldn't see her face, only feel her movements growing more and more dominant. Our dirty talk that night took a different turn, circling constantly around my ex-wife. It was as if Roxanne had become part of our foreplay. Finally, Vivian held me close and whispered hoarsely in my ear, "Who owns you now? Who do you want?" I cried out, broken. "Vivian, I only want you." That night, for the first time in a long while, I dreamed of Roxanne. Right after the divorce, I dreamed of her almost every night, waking up in tears. But since meeting Vivian, I rarely dreamed of the past. I knew instantly that it was a dream, but I couldn't control it, couldn't wake up. I could only watch as I relived that part of my memory again. My story with Roxanne wasn't anything new. I'd had a crush on her since high school. To get into the same university as her, I spent 3 years studying from dawn till dusk, going from an average student to consistently in the top 3 of my class. Finally, I earned my place on the same campus. On orientation day, I worked up the courage to confess my feelings to her, only to find her presenting a sports car full of roses to the valedictorian and most popular guy on campus. That guy was Edward. They had grown up together from families of similar standing, childhood sweethearts. They were the kind of people who shined in a crowd, and even I had to admit they were a perfect match. They were inseparable for all 4 years of college, but being two alpha personalities, they inevitably clashed. Roxanne was never one to back down, and their cold wars grew longer and longer. Edward couldn't take it anymore. After another fight near graduation, he showed her his acceptance letter from Oxford. With red-rimmed eyes, he told her, "Roxanne, if you ask me to stay, I won't go." But Roxanne, young and proud, replied casually, "That's great. Congratulations. You should go then." And just like that, they went their separate ways. Only after Edward left did Roxanne start to feel the pain. She began drinking heavily, hitting clubs, and street racing. That was when I finally got my chance to get close to her. I lost count of how many times I dragged her, dead drunk, out of a bar and painstakingly got her home. I made her hangover soup and cooked her porridge in the morning. Back then, people online would have called me a simp, but I hated that word. I just thought I was in love with her. When you love someone, you naturally want to be good to them. What's wrong with that? First, Roxanne found me annoying. She told me to get lost, to stop doing unnecessary things. But gradually, she grew accustomed to having me around and began to tolerate my presence. Once, after a night of drinking, she grabbed my hand and, for the first time, asked me not to leave. Her warm, alcohol-scented breath tickled my ear. Her hands began to wander over my body as she murmured someone else's name. I seized her hands. "Roxanne, I'm Jake, not Edward." But she just giggled softly and nibbled on my earlobe. I know. A shiver ran down my spine, and my grip loosened. I thought maybe she's finally moved by my devotion. Maybe she's starting to like me even just a little. Sure enough, the next morning, she stared at the red stain on the sheets for a long time before saying, "Jake, let's be together." And just like that, no flowers, no grand confession, nothing remotely romantic, we got together on that chaotic morning. A month later, news broke that her family's company was facing a financial crisis. I used all my savings and connections to help her pull through. Afterward, she looked at me and said calmly, "Then let's get married." I was ecstatic, practically stupid with joy. I planned every detail of the wedding, running around tirelessly. I thought I had finally found happiness. But I later learned that on the night Roxanne got drunk, Edward had posted a picture of his new girlfriend on his social feed. Devastated, she had chosen to marry me. But the child was a thorn in my side, not enough to draw blood, but a dull, persistent ache over the years. Still, I endured it, because I loved her, and I tried my best to love the child. Besides, Edward was in the past. I figured if the three of us lived a good life together, she would eventually forget him. And it was true. With the arrival of the child, Roxanne seemed to start settling down. She stopped going out after work and would come home early to be with me and the baby, smiling as she watched me hold him. During our intimate moments at midnight, she would rest her head on my chest and chuckle, "Your muscles are getting harder. Want me to help you relax?" Those intimate days and nights were so beautiful, like a dream I was bound to wake from. I naively immersed myself in that honey-coated poison, believing she had finally fallen in love with me. Then, Edward's father's investments failed, and his family fell from grace. Edward came back to the country. Even now, I don't like to dwell on that period, which was for me a time of almost total darkness. The first thing Edward did upon his return was have dinner with Roxanne. He told her the new girlfriend was fake, just a way to get back at her, and that he regretted it deeply. From that day on, Roxanne started coming home later and later. Eventually, she started staying out all night. My beautiful dream was shattered by him, effortlessly. But I still endured it, for the sake of the child. Oliver was growing up day by day. He learned to call me Daddy. He was so attached to me, he wouldn't sleep unless I put him to bed. He would waddle towards me like a little duckling, chirping, "Daddy, wait for me." As Oliver grew, Roxanne started taking him out with Edward. The first time I found out, Oliver came home with a mountain of toys and told me excitedly, "Uncle Edward is the best. I want to play with him again." I was stunned. Roxanne said nonchalantly, "We ran into Edward today. He said it was his first time meeting Oliver, so he bought him a few extra toys." That night, when she tried to be intimate with me, I smelled the lingering scent of men's cologne on her. I shoved her away and ran to the bathroom, where I retched my guts out. Roxanne stood behind me, her face dark. "Jake, are you disgusted by me?" I leaned on the toilet for a long time before standing up and seeing my pale face in the mirror. I slept in the guest room that night. From then on, Roxanne and I slept in separate rooms. I forbade Roxanne from taking Oliver to see Edward, but I couldn't stop Edward from repeatedly telling Roxanne he wanted to see the boy. I lost it over this, throwing all my dignity away. I smashed everything in the house and screamed at her in a complete breakdown. Oliver cried in terror off to the side, yelling, "I don't want Daddy. I want Uncle Edward. Mommy, take me to see Uncle Edward." Watching him sob uncontrollably, I felt my insides burn, my heart shatter. Because I wanted to instill good habits in Oliver, I limited his snacks, didn't let him buy toys indiscriminately, taught him to read, and restricted his TV and iPad time to protect his eyesight. All Edward had to do was play with him, let him eat whatever he wanted, and indulge his every whim, and this clueless child became more and more dependent on him each day. He started to resist me more and more, looking forward to his meetings with Edward. I even overheard him secretly ask Roxanne, "Mommy, I don't like Daddy. Can you make him go away so Uncle Edward can be my dad?" Roxanne said nothing. That night, I didn't put Oliver to bed. I stayed in my room and cried all night long. I didn't know how my life had come to this. The woman I loved, the child I had poured my heart into raising, both had abandoned me for someone else without a second thought. And then came Oliver's words. He wished I would die, so Edward could be his father. I thought I would be heartbroken, but strangely I wasn't. I just felt exhausted, as if all my strength had been drained away. I couldn't even keep my eyelids open. Looking back, it felt like I had been walking a lonely path all along, forcing myself on something that was never meant for me. I had reached my breaking point, and suddenly I understood. If you can't force it, you have to let it go. I gave Roxanne the divorce papers. She thought I would fight her for custody of Oliver. But I just said calmly, "I don't want him and I don't want you." Vivian loved collecting and was a regular at auctions. I usually wasn't interested in such events, but this time, I saw a unique Patek Philippe watch in the catalog that caught my eye. It was a one-of-a-kind piece with a pink diamond dial, and my heart immediately started to race. Vivian loved giving me gifts, especially luxury watches and cufflinks. Over time, I had started to develop a taste for these expensive, beautiful things myself. She noticed my gaze. "Like it?" I nodded. "Honey, can you bid on it for me?" The moment the words left my mouth, I froze. When I was with Roxanne, I was always the one taking care of her. I never asked her for anything, probably because I subconsciously knew that making demands was a privilege reserved for the one who is loved. But in my 3 years with Vivian, I had become more and more comfortable asking for things, almost shamelessly so. Vivian smiled. Of course. The watch's opening bid was $1.2 million. After a long wait, the bidding finally began. Someone raised their paddle. $1.3 million. $1.4 million. $1.5 million. $1.8 million. Vivian raised her paddle. $2 million. Just then, a familiar voice came from the side. $2.1 million. I instinctively turned to look. Edward was leaning against Roxanne, and it was Roxanne who had raised the paddle. She shot me a smug smile. 3 years had passed, and she seemed even more beautiful. Her hair was a cascade of glossy waves, and she wore a tailored women's suit that gave her a more mature, sophisticated air. Vivian's expression didn't change as she raised her paddle again. Edward twirled a strand of Roxanne's hair and said with a grin, "Roxanne, I love that watch too. Will you buy it for me?" Roxanne glanced at me. I turned my head away, my face cold. What rotten luck. She continued to bid, and the price quickly soared past $2.3 million. The two women were now locked in a battle of wills. The watch was worth maybe 3 million at most, yet they had driven the price up to over 5 million. The auctioneer's face was frozen in a delighted grin. I grabbed Vivian's hand, stopping her from bidding again. When she tried to use her other hand, I gritted my teeth and forced a smile. Honey, I don't even want the watch anymore. How about you just transfer that 5 million to my account instead? She looked at me, frowning. I don't want to lose. But I do, I said, getting anxious. Your money is my money, and it pains me to see it wasted. If you raise that paddle again, you're sleeping on the couch. Vivian reluctantly lowered her paddle. Roxanne smiled, completely satisfied. Without the watch, the auction became dull. Vivian and I decided to leave early. But at the exit, we ran into Roxanne, who was having a cigarette. Her eyes fell on Vivian, her tone mocking. I thought Vivian Lynn was so generous. Turns out, not so much. I linked my arm with Vivian's. I was the one who told her to stop. It's our money. Why should I pay for your little ego trip? Vivian smiled sweetly. My husband is quite frugal. He knows how hard I work for my money. Roxanne's face fell. She ignored Edward, who was standing beside her, and instead asked me, "You like that watch?" This woman seemed to have lost her mind. I couldn't for the life of me remember what I ever saw in her. I couldn't be bothered to talk to her anymore, so I turned and left with Vivian. On Oliver's birthday, Roxanne called me. For the first time, her tone was sincere, almost pleading. The boy is 6 now, and he's been missing you terribly these past few days, waking up crying at night. I know you have a new family, but you did raise Oliver. Could you please come see him? I hesitated for a moment, but I went. I didn't love Oliver anymore, but I had once invested real feelings in him. There was still a sliver of a bond. After being away for 3 years, I had no idea what he liked anymore. I passed a mall on the way and just picked up a Lego set. Stepping back into the villa where I had once lived felt surreal. Traces of me hadn't been completely erased. The cushions on the sofa were the ones I had picked, and the carpet was the same one I'd bought before I left. The table was set for dinner. Roxanne and Oliver were waiting for me at the door, just like the happy family life I used to dream of. Roxanne's eyes curved into a smile. "You're here." Oliver was overjoyed. He started to run towards me for a hug, but stopped himself, cautiously saying, "Daddy, I missed you so much." I handed Oliver the gift box. "Happy birthday." He took it happily, his eyes widening in surprise. "It's a Lego sports car. I love it." He beamed with such genuine joy, as if he truly loved my gift. But I couldn't bring myself to smile. I remembered when he was little, how I would meticulously plan every birthday for him. Balloons, gifts, decorations. He would just pout, toss my gift aside, and turn to Roxanne, "Mommy, where's the gift Uncle Edward got me?" That gift I gave him remained unopened until the day I left. It just sat there in a corner, collecting dust. Now, I had just bought something on a whim, and he was ecstatic. The irony was bitter. The food tonight tasted a bit off. One dish in particular, the steak, was slightly burnt. I frowned. Did the housekeeper make this? Roxanne took a sip of wine, her voice softer. I did. I was stunned. In all the years I was with Roxanne, I had never seen her cook. Even when I was sick and our housekeeper happened to be on vacation, she never offered to make me so much as a bowl of porridge. A sarcastic smile tugged at my lips. It really is obvious when someone loves you and when they don't. After getting together with Edward, she had even learned to cook. Seeing my expression darken, Roxanne fell silent, unsure of what she had done wrong. She started putting food on my plate. "This lobster isn't burnt. It's cooked perfectly. Try it." I glanced at the sizzling lobster. "Roxanne, I'm allergic to shellfish." Her hand froze mid-air, and she awkwardly withdrew it. "Sorry." Oliver, ever the observant one, put a piece of fish on my plate. "Daddy, eat some fish." I paused, then ate the piece of fish. Oliver's face lit up with a smile. After a while, Roxanne suddenly looked up, her voice a bit hoarse.
"Jake, I'm sorry."
I looked at her, confused. I was a terrible wife, wasn't I? When we were together, you were the one taking care of me and the child. I just took your efforts for granted. You knew all my preferences. I still remember how every dish you made was something Oliver and I loved. But after all these years, I never even knew you were allergic to shellfish. A faint bitterness rose in my chest. I knew I was completely over Roxanne, but unearthing those buried feelings of resentment and pain still left me with a complicated mix of emotions. It's okay, I said, looking down to avoid her gaze. It's all in the past. Not forgiven. Just that I no longer cared. After dinner, Roxanne brought out a cake and lit the candles. Oliver closed his eyes, clasped his hands together, and made a wish. After he blew out the candles, Roxanne asked casually, "What did you wish for? You took so long." Oliver bit his lower lip. "I wished for Mommy and Daddy to get back together, and for Daddy to come home." My hand froze. Roxanne didn't say anything either. The atmosphere grew awkward. Oliver looked up at me. I stroked his head. "Make another wish." The smile on his face vanished. He grabbed my hand, flustered and lost, his voice tinged with tears. "Daddy." Roxanne suddenly got up and brought over a velvet box, handing it to me. "I saw you liked this the other day. I've missed all your birthdays these past few years. Consider this making up for it." I opened the box. The Patek Philippe watch lay quietly on the dark blue velvet lining, every facet of its dial gleaming with a low-key, luxurious light. My eyes widened. "Didn't you buy this for Edward?" Roxanne bit her lip. "I bought it for you." Before she could say more, the front door was pushed open. An expressionless Edward stood in the doorway. He glanced at the box in my hands and sneered. "No wonder I couldn't find this watch after the auction. So it wasn't for me." Roxanne looked displeased. He sauntered over, looking down at me with cold, mocking eyes. "Jake, I thought you had more pride than this. After all these years, are you still this pathetic?" I laughed. "On what grounds are you saying this to me? As the other man who broke up a marriage?" Edward sneered back, "The one who isn't loved is the real third wheel." "Oh?" I raised an eyebrow. "If you two are so in love, why haven't you gotten married in the 3 years since our divorce?" I shook the watch box. "Is it because you don't want to?" Edward's face changed instantly. Just as he was about to speak, Roxanne cut him off with a frown. "Didn't I tell you not to come over anymore? I even changed the code. How did you get in?" Edward's expression soured even more. "You told me not to come because you were going to be with him? Roxanne, you're divorced. Don't you remember what you told me? You said you were only with him because I had a new girlfriend, that you were just trying to spite me. You said you didn't love him at all. You said you regretted marrying him so quickly. Enough." Roxanne cut him off sharply. "Get out." Edward stared at her in disbelief, then quickly knelt to grab Oliver, forcing a smile onto his face. "Happy birthday, Oliver. Uncle Edward bought you a present. Want to see?" Oliver's face was devoid of any smile. He took a step back, pulling away from Edward's hand. "No, Daddy already gave me a present." "Well then, want to go to the amusement park? I promised you. Uncle Edward will take you to the amusement park. Okay?" Oliver ran to my side and grabbed my hand, shouting, "No, I want Daddy to take me. Go away. I don't want to be with you." Edward swayed on his feet. He suddenly gritted his teeth and glared at me. "Jake, was it you? Did you say something about me?" He lunged at me, his fist aimed at my face, but I caught his wrist firmly. With a swift motion, I slapped him across the face. The sharp sound echoed in the room. Edward clutched his cheek, his eyes wide with a venomous hatred that seemed to spill out. I looked at him. That slap was for knowingly being a homewrecker and destroying someone's family. "I've trained in martial arts. If you're looking for another beating, I won't hold back." Edward's knuckles turned white as he clenched his fists, but he didn't dare make another move. "Roxanne," he said, his voice trembling with feigned hurt. Roxanne shrugged. "He's telling the truth. He's been training since high school. If he really wanted to beat you up, I couldn't stop him." Edward's eyes reddened. After a moment, he snatched his coat and fled in disgrace. After dinner, Oliver was so tired he could barely keep his eyes open, but he clung to my sleeve, refusing to let go, leaning against me dependently. Looking at his profile, I suddenly remembered how much he had relied on me when he first came into our home. But in the end, he grew to resemble his mother more and more. Perhaps our father-son bond was just too shallow. I gently pulled my sleeve away. "I have to go," I said softly. "My daughter is waiting for me at home." Tears welled up in Oliver's eyes, but he fought to keep them from falling. He just whispered, "Will you come see me again, Daddy?" I thought for a moment. "We'll see. If I have time." He nodded obediently, his eyes full of reluctance as he watched Roxanne see me out. That night, I did something I hadn't done in ages and called my best friend, Barry, to ask what was really going on between Roxanne and Edward. I had assumed she would marry Edward right after our divorce, but surprisingly, after 3 years, their relationship seemed to have soured. Barry sighed. "Who knows? She cheated on you with Edward during the marriage, so we all thought they were desperately in love. I heard Edward proposed several times, but Roxanne never responded. No idea what she's thinking. I have a feeling they're about to break up. Back then, Edward was only trying to win over Oliver to force your hand in the divorce. After you left, he found having a stepson to be a hassle and started wanting a child of his own. Roxanne disagreed, and they fought about it several times. She even told us she regretted divorcing you. I remember Edward yelled at Oliver once because the kid said he missed you. With you out of the picture, he had no reason to suck up to him anymore. There's no way he could genuinely love a child raised by his rival. Now that the boy is older and wiser, and people have been talking in his ear, he knows what's what and has started to distance himself from Edward. So that's how it was. I couldn't help but find it laughable. When I, the outsider, was around, the three of them were so united against me. Now that I was gone, they were fighting amongst themselves. But that was none of my business anymore. I held Clara as she slept, watching her tiny fingers curl around mine. My heart filled with a warm, gentle love. Clara's full name was Clarentine. It reflected my love for her mother, Vivian. This child was the fruit of our love. She would never break my heart the way Oliver had. I often felt grateful for her birth. Grateful that she gave me a chance to love someone with all my heart. I didn't take the watch, but Roxanne had it sent to my house anyway. I was stressing about what to do with it when Vivian came home and saw it. She was impassive. "She sent this to you?" I quickly explained I refused it, but she insisted on sending it over. "I'll have someone return it to her." Vivian walked over, toying with the watch, and sneered, "She's certainly generous. A $5 million item given away just like that. If she had been this good to you from the start, where would I even fit in? It's like watering the crops after the kid has died of thirst. What was she doing before? I'll return it to her. There's no trouble, just on my way." I couldn't help but mumble, "Who's thanking you?" "Vivian." "What?" "Nothing." I said, "Thank you. You're saving me from a huge headache." I didn't give it another thought. A few days later, I came home to find a small box on the table. I opened it. It was another Patek Philippe watch, but this one's design was even more exquisite with a larger dial. Vivian came out of the bedroom and slowly fastened the watch on my wrist. Custom made from Switzerland. The only one in the world. $14 million. Seeing my silence, she added, "It's better than hers." Hers was a second-hand piece from an auction house. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. My heart felt both sour and warm. A woman's competitive spirit is a terrifying thing. Vivian hugged me from behind. Her cedar-scented perfume, with its cool, crisp notes, enveloped me. She buried her chin in my shoulder. "Anything she can give you, I can give you. Don't think about her anymore." I turned and hugged her back, moved. "I'm not thinking about her. I only think about you." "Oh?" Vivian raised an eyebrow, guiding my hand slowly downward. "And what part of your wife are you thinking about?" That night I was exhausted. Vivian flipped me over, promising, "Last time. Your wife just bought you a watch you love. Don't I deserve a little reward?" As dawn approached, I tossed the watch at her face and kicked her. "Take your watch and get out." When I took Clara to the amusement park, I didn't expect to run into Roxanne and Oliver. Edward was trailing behind them. The world is a small place. I hadn't seen them in 3 years, and now I was bumping into them every few days. Oliver's eyes lit up at first, then he hesitantly ran over. "Daddy, can I join you?" I looked at him, remembering how I had wanted to take him to an amusement park before the divorce. But back then, he had just told me disdainfully, "Uncle Edward already took me. He said he'll take me again next week." Now, he knew to ask to come with me. Before I could say anything, Clara got angry and pushed Oliver with her small hands. "He's my daddy. I hate you, go away. Daddy, don't let him come with us." I was caught in the middle. In the end, it was Roxanne who walked over and pulled Oliver away. "Don't bother your father." Oliver burst into tears on the spot. His bright, dark eyes dimmed as tears splashed onto the ground. He clung to the corner of my shirt, unable to hold back any longer. "But you're my daddy. I'm your child too. Why can't you come back and be with me?" I looked at him for a long time and said softly, "Because this is what you chose. You wished for Daddy to die, for Uncle Edward to become your new dad. Isn't this what you wanted?" Roxanne lowered her gaze. Oliver was sobbing, gasping for breath.
I'm sorry, Daddy.
I know I was wrong now. They said Uncle Edward was just pretending in front of me. They said a stepfather would never truly be good to me, that you were the only one who was really good to me. I know I was wrong. Can you please come back? A flash of embarrassment and resentment crossed Edward's face. Oliver cried so miserably, his small body convulsing, like an abandoned puppy. But my heart felt nothing. Sometimes I wondered if I was too cruel. Seeing him like this, I only thought he was just as selfish as his mother. Yes, selfish. He probably didn't regret what he said to me, just as Roxanne didn't truly regret how she had treated me. They regretted losing me, the person who had loved them unconditionally. People have a natural instinct for self-preservation. They had just discovered that there was no one else in the world who would love them as wholeheartedly as I did. But it's too late. I gently pried his small hand off me and said, to him and to Roxanne, "You have to understand one thing. In this world, no one is obligated to wait forever for you to come back." Roxanne's face was pale. She looked like she wanted to say something, opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Edward rushed over, trying to grab Oliver. "How about Uncle Edward keeps you company? I'll take you on any ride you want today." "I don't want you," Oliver yelled, flinging his hand away. "It's all your fault. If it weren't for you, Daddy wouldn't have left. I don't want you to be my dad. You made me lose my dad." People around us turned to stare in surprise. Many stopped, pointing at Edward and whispering among themselves. Edward's face flushed red. He violently shook off Oliver's hand and stormed away. I picked up Clara. "Come on, let's go. Daddy will take you on whatever you want to ride today." Clara nodded happily. "Okay." She didn't forget to turn back and make a face at Oliver. "Daddy doesn't want you anymore." Oliver completely broke down, sitting on the ground and wailing. Leaving the amusement park, I suddenly had to use the restroom. I told Vivian to watch Clara and went ahead. As I came out, a powerful force suddenly came from behind. A damp cloth with a pungent smell was pressed over my nose. A few seconds later, I lost consciousness. When I woke up, I was in a dirty, dark storage room. My mouth was stuffed with a rag, and my hands were tied behind my back. A bald, dark-skinned man saw me wake up, ripped the rag from my mouth, and pointed his phone at me. "Boss, we got the guy you wanted. We'll send you the video in a bit, then you can settle the rest of the payment with us." I was confused and asked tentatively, "Did you kidnap me to get money from Vivian Lynn?" Another man, skinny as a monkey, approached me with a lewd grin. "Why ask so many questions? You just messed with the wrong person. Someone's paying us to entertain you properly. Didn't expect a grown man to be so handsome." His small eyes roamed up and down my body, glinting with a disgusting light. "The boss loves this type. Exciting." As he spoke, his hand reached for me and ripped my shirt open. My eyes widened in horror, but my hands and feet were bound, and I couldn't struggle. Just as I was about to lose hope, the door was kicked open with a loud bang. A breathless Roxanne stood silhouetted against the light. Without a word, she rushed in and kicked the skinny man in the face. He hit the ground with a thud. The bald man was stunned for a moment, then grabbed a nearby steel pipe and swung it at Roxanne. Roxanne dodged to the side. Roxanne. Just then, I noticed two more men had entered behind her, holding knives. Roxanne couldn't turn in time and was slashed across the back. She let out a muffled grunt, but ignored her injury. She spun around, locking one man in a chokehold with her elbow, taking him down, then rolling over his back to kick the other one down. Then she pulled me up. Go. Night had fallen. We stumbled through a muddy path, and after what felt like an eternity, I couldn't run another step. My legs gave out and I collapsed. After catching my breath for a while, I realized we had run into a dense forest. It was eerily silent, not even a bird chirping. Why did you come? I asked Roxanne after I had recovered. I saw you being dragged into a car as I was leaving. I immediately drove after you. Her breathing gradually returned to normal. She tentatively took my hand. Don't be afraid. I called the police. They should be here soon. It was only then that I smelled the faint scent of blood. Right, you were injured just now, weren't you? Let me see. But my phone had been taken, and hers was lost during the fight. In the faint moonlight, I could only see that the wound on her back was long and still bleeding. I thought for a moment, then had Roxanne tear off the sleeve of her shirt to apply pressure and bandage the wound. It's a pretty serious injury. You need to go to a hospital. But which way should we go? I looked around. In the pitch-black darkness, it was impossible to tell which direction was which. Let's rest for a while. It's okay, the bleeding will stop soon. Fortunately, she was in good shape. Soon enough, the bleeding lessened. But she had already lost a lot of blood, and her hands were cold. Her voice was weak. My heart was a mix of emotions. Why did you come? I was divorced from her. I had nothing to do with her anymore. Yet she had risked her life to save me. I don't know, Roxanne said, seeming a bit lost herself. My body moved before my brain could even process it. I fell silent. The early spring night was still cold. She was injured, so to keep her warm, I scooted closer, trying to warm her with my body heat. The faint scent of women's perfume mingled with the smell of blood in the air. Roxanne didn't speak. After a long time, she said hoarsely, I once dreamed about you. We were leaning against each other, just like this. But when the sun came up, you were gone. I didn't say anything. I didn't know what to say. We once had so many intimate nights, whispering in each other's ears. But later, we drifted apart. She grew tired of me. I hated her. And in the end, it was just a mess that ended abruptly. Now, leaning against each other again, there was neither love nor hate, only a profound sense of melancholy. Roxanne's hand, holding mine, trembled slightly. Jake, I know I was wrong. Can you come back? I shouldn't have gotten entangled with Edward. I couldn't accept that he dumped me. Couldn't stand that he found someone new so quickly. My biggest regret is using your love for me to get revenge on him. It was only after you left that I realized I was just bitter about him. The truth is, her voice held a barely perceptible sob. The truth is, I fell in love with you a long time ago. I was just too stupid to realize it. I really regret it. She held my hand tightly, and a hot tear fell onto my skin. Please, can you come back? I'll spend the rest of my life making up for what I owe you. I'll never hurt you again. Okay? Her words were humble, her back bent. She was begging me, but I just touched the wound on her back. Roxanne, do you think this will leave a scar after it heals? She seemed to sense what I was about to say, and her sobs grew more intense. I said lightly, I believe what you're saying. It's just that here, I pointed to my heart. The wounds I have here will never go away. Every moment with you would just constantly remind me of the past. Jake. Roxanne's voice trembled uncontrollably. I could imagine the expression on her face. Because during those years with her, I had looked at her with that same expression countless times. But I continued, and most importantly, I'm not in love with you anymore. As I said those words, I suddenly felt the shackles that had bound me for so many years disappear. The more I spoke, the lighter I felt, until I felt a sense of release. I looked at her. I have a new love. She loves me very much, and I love her very much. Roxanne, let the past truly be the past. Roxanne's injury wasn't serious, but her head had a mild concussion from where Vivian had hit her. At the break of dawn, the police and a dust-covered Vivian finally found us. She punched Roxanne in the face, her eyes cold. "Your pretty boy hired those men," she said frigidly. "He wanted them to film themselves humiliating Jake. He thought if you saw the video, you'd finally get over him. If you can't control your man, then I will." Edward's plan was to have the video filmed, have me dumped somewhere random, and have the men disappear with the money. No one would ever trace it back to him. When his plan was exposed, he knew he was in trouble and fled to Southeast Asia overnight. But there, he crossed a local gang, had his tendons cut, and was condemned to a wheelchair for the rest of his life. We never heard from him again, but it wasn't hard to imagine what would become of him. He would probably live in darkness forever, unable to escape, until he died. I asked Vivian who did it. She said innocently, "I only run clean businesses. I'm a law-abiding citizen. Why would you think that of me? It must have been Roxanne. I told you she was no good." When I asked Roxanne, she sneered. "He was taken out before I even had a chance to make a move. You think your precious little wife is some saint? She's a calculating schemer." In the end, I never found out who did it and had to drop the subject. When the willows turned green, Vivian suddenly said she wanted to go abroad for a while. "The business is expanding. I want to open a few more branches in France. Besides, you've always wanted to see the lavender fields in Provence. Haven't you? The three of us can go together." I looked up at her. "Is that the real reason?" "Fine," she said calmly. "Don't you think your ex-wife has been bothering you a little too much lately? But the new branches are real too. How about a change of scenery, a change of mood?" I thought about it and finally agreed. Vivian was right. A change of scenery, a change of mood. This place held countless memories for me, good and bad. It was time to move on. On the day we left, I thought I saw Roxanne and Oliver at the airport. But when I looked again, the two figures seemed to have disappeared. "Daddy," Clara said, pulling my hand excitedly, "it's time to go." I nodded, pulling my gaze away. Like I said before, what's past is past. Before boarding, I received a text message. "If she's not good to you, come back. You said no one is obligated to wait for someone forever. That's not true. I will always wait for you." I looked down and deleted the message. Vivian looked over. "Who was that?" I smiled. "Nothing, just spam." The year Oliver went to college, I saw Roxanne again. We had kept in touch over the years, but only because of our children. She was over 40 now, but time hadn't diminished her beauty. Instead, it had added a touch of mature elegance. The former party girl had shed her sharp edges and dedicated herself to raising her child, truly becoming a model single mother. At the celebration dinner, I took a sip of my drink and said to Roxanne, "I hear you haven't had anyone by your side all these years? I still have my son with me, so I'm not really lonely. Now that he's off to college, are you sure you don't want to find someone?" She just smiled. "I'm used to it." "Is she still good to you?" I nodded. "Better than ever. She just bought me a chateau in France a few days ago." "That's good." She held her glass, and I couldn't tell who she was talking to. "That's good." After a few drinks, Vivian sent me a message. "Here to pick you up. The car's out front." I grabbed my coat. I should get going. Roxanne stood up. "I'll walk you out." It had started raining at some point. I jogged towards the exit. Behind me, Roxanne suddenly called out, "Jake!" I think she said something, but the rain was too loud, and I couldn't hear. I turned back to Roxanne. "What did you say?" Roxanne stood there. After a long moment, she smiled and waved at me. "Nothing. Be safe on your way." I nodded. After getting in the car, I glanced in the rearview mirror. Roxanne was still standing there, the rain soaking her, but she didn't seem to notice. The car drove further and further away, and her figure grew smaller and smaller. Finally, she disappeared completely around a corner. I closed my eyes.